Okay, with today's daf is daf Kuf Mem Vav 146, and closing in on the end of this Masechta Be'ez Hashem. But we're going to start from Tanur Rabbanim Kuf Mem Hey Amud Beis, the first Tanur Rabbanim. Okay, here we go. So we're discussing over here again. It was an ancient custom where nobody could afford to make a wedding. So what they did was invite a friend, and he would pay for his food and give you a gift, with the understanding that when he gets married, you're going to do the same for him. And this is a real obligation. It's not like you invite somebody and you don't show up to his wedding. Um, it was a real obligation. Hi, Sheldon. We just began.
Hi.
Okay, we're discussing over here about the ancient custom of, and we're starting Kuf Mem Hey Amud Beis by the Tanur Rabbanan. So we're discussing over here by the ancient custom that when nobody could afford to make a wedding. So when you invited somebody to your wedding, he came and paid for his food, and he gave you a gift. With the understanding is that when he gets married, you have to come and pay for your food and give him a gift. And this is an obligation. It's not like a nice thing to do. He could take you to court if you don't pay up. So that's what we learned yesterday in the Mishnah, and it was called shushbinus. That's the friendship relationship. So the Gemara says like this, but not all the time do you have to show up to his wedding. Tana Rabbanim, Asi imay bepumbe. Let's say you made a wedding. The first guy made a wedding, bepumbe, and this is the word. Pumbe means pompous. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it comes from that word, pompous. You made a pompous wedding, and he wants to make vikesh lasses ime bitzina, and he wants to make a quiet wedding because it's maybe a time of persecution where they didn't allow Jews to make weddings. So Yachalai Malai, you can say to him, Bepumbe Asimach, if you're going to make a pompous wedding, then I'm going to show up. Like you showed up to my pompous wedding, I want to come to your to a nice wedding, and you can't invite me to a tiny, shalashudas. So you don't have to pay up until he makes the similar wedding that you made. Asi ime b'psula. Let's say you married a first-time girl, and he wants to invite you to his wedding with an almana. You could say to him, "B'psula esimech." I came to you came to my wedding when I married a basula. So I want to come to your wedding if you marry a basula because the simcha is greater. Kederach sisi imi. Asi imay b'shniya. Vikish lasis imay b'rishayna. If Yacha Loimer Loikish the Tisa Achacheres Esa Imcha. Let's say you made a second marriage with a second wife, and he wants to invite you to a marriage to a first wife. You could tell him that when you're going to marry the second wife, then I'm going to show up. Let's say you invited him to one wedding, and he wants to marry two ladies, and you should participate in both weddings and give half your presents to one wedding and half the presents that you owe him to the second wedding. You can say no to him, I could only show up to one wedding, and if you're marrying one lady, then that works for me, and then I'll show up. Just like you showed up to one wedding by me. Basically, it has to be more or less an even exchange. But this concept doesn't exist anymore. So of shushbinish. So we'll just move on to another topic. But once we mentioned this odd Aramaic word called pumbi, which means like a public, like a pompous. So the Gemara uses to discuss that word in a certain sense. Just like this, people who are rich people in assets and wealth. There's also people who are rich in limud haTorah, which means that they're more out there, so to speak. Just like you have atir nechasim, somebody who's rich with possessions. Atir bepumbe, you have a rich guy who's a public, who everybody knows is rich, right? His animals graze everywhere. So in learning, also you have people who are wealthy in learning. In other words, you can invite them to speak at any function. You can invite them because you can't just invite somebody who just knows certain halachas or certain Talmud Chacham. A guy who has a rich, knowledge of learning and knows how to say a story. People get, he becomes like a well-known Talmud Chacham. Zeh Bal HaGodus. That's somebody who knows a lot of Agadita, a lot of stories, and you can invite him to speak anywhere. Atir Saloyim, Atir Tekoya. If somebody has a lot of money exchanges or a person who's rich with oil. So a person who is always getting in money or who has oil and he's always working new fragrances. Somebody who's rich in learning like that, you would call him Zebal Pilpul, somebody who knows how to do pilpul. In other words, he can see new chidushim in Torah. Some people, they're able to look at something and see something new in their learning. They can see the same story in the Chumash and see something new. That's another type of Talmud Chacham. Ate Meshach, Ate Kamos. Somebody who has, like, let's say, things that are stored. There's some people that know all the medrashim and all the Talmud, but it's all stored in there. They don't know how to create new product. Zeh Bal Shmuais. That's somebody who knows all the learning and it's memorized. And people use such a Talmud Chacham when they need to know where something is written. So that's another type of Talmud Chacham. And then the Gemara says, Hakol Sricha L'Morachitaya. Everybody needs the guy that's selling wheat. Gemara, somebody who knows Gemara. That is, hi Alan, we're on Kuf Mem Hey Yomid Beis, and we're up to Amar Rab Zera. Okay, here we go. Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rav. Rab Zera said in the name of Rav, my diksiv, why does it say in the Pasuk, Kol Yemei Oni, all the days of somebody who's poor, Ra'im are bad. So in learning, what is that? Mishlei is always referring to Torah. So how do you apply that expression that all the days of a poor person is bad? Zel Bal Gemara. Anybody who learns Gemara is really it feels like poor because you're suffering, because to learn Gemara it's not so easy. There's a lot of questions, a lot of trying to figure out answers, so it's not so easy. So all the days are bad. The toiv leiv mishtatamid. Somebody who has a good heart always has a fun time. Is always drinking and having fun. Zeh bal mishnah. That refers to somebody who learns mishnayos. Mishnayos is easier. You could go from one mishnah to another mishnah to another mishnah. Not so many questions. So that's an easier type of learning, and it brings happiness. Rava says ibcha. It's the opposite. That means. Learning Gemara, at least you could learn how to paskin, and you could come to a conclusion. With Mishnayos, you're learning superficially, and therefore you feel that something is missing. So you are the poor person. Behind the Omer Ramashashim Shei Rava, Ramsharshi is said in the name of Rava because Rava holds that learning Gemara is a wealthier type of learning. My diksiv, why does it say in the pasuk Masiya of him, someone who carries stones? Or mines stones, Ya'atzev behem, will be very frustrated. By Kea Eitzim, somebody chops wood, Yisachim behem, will be warmed by it. Masiya Avanim, Ya'atzev behem, those that mine stones, it will be sad. Eli Bala Mishnah. That is a Bala Mishnah, somebody who just learns Mishnayos, where it's stones. You don't get from it. You don't get some warmth from it. By someone who learns Gemara, he feels like more of a geschmack in his learning. Yeah, and that's why, it's unfortunate, but that's the reality is that they don't learn too much Mishnayos in the yeshiva because there's more of a geschmack to learning Gemara, and that's why there's more of a geschmack, and that's what they choose to stress on. Rav Chanina says, Kol Yemei Ani Aram. Anybody who's poor, every day is a bad day. What's that referring to? It's funny. If you have a bad wife, then every day is a bad day, which is true. The toiv leiv mishtatamid, somebody who's always happy and having a party every day, isha tova. If you have a very good wife, then every day is a good day for you, no matter what's happening in your financial world or other parts of your life. It's the fact that you have a good wife, that's enough to make that every day is a party. Rabbi Yanai Kol Yemei Oniram. Anybody who's poor, every day is a bad day, is a istinus. That's referring to somebody who's very finicky. So everything bothers him. Any mess, anything that's out of order is always getting on his nerves. If a person hasn't, he can endure a lot of mishaps, and if it's not so clean, it doesn't bother him so much. So he's always a happy person and having a party in life. Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Yemei Ani Ra'arim, every day is a bad day. Zeh Rachma. It's very interesting. Somebody who's a very big sympathizer, a person, let's say, who watches the news and every bad, tragic news that comes across the lines, the television, he gets moved to be upset. So every day is a bad day because every day something tragic happens and you take it to heart. The Tov Leiv Mishta Tamid, every day is a great day. Za'achzari. If you're a little bit cruel, basically you're detached from the news, basically, then every day is a party because you don't get so latched on to what's going on in the world. Rabbi Yeshua, but Levi Amar Rabbi Yeshua says, Kol Yemei Ani Roim, every day is a bad day. Zeh Shaddai Tzara. A person who is very in the box, he doesn't have a bright kite, he doesn't have a wide lens. So everything has to fit into, he's linear, basically. The Toiv Leiv Mishta Tamid, somebody who is having a party, Zeh Shaddai Rechava, he's more, he has a wide perspective. And it also refers to somebody who's like, he has to make all the pennies match. If it doesn't add up, he's not buying it. So therefore, every day is a bad day. He'll never buy a house or something like that because he doesn't want to take any risk. Somebody who is a happy person takes risk, and then every day is a party. We go to a topic of Kof Memvav. Rabbi Yeshua Levi. Rabbi Yeshua Levi says, Kol Yemei Aniram. Every day is a bad day for somebody, for a poor person. Says the Gemara, why? Just because he can't afford food during the weekdays, he has good food on Shabbos and Yom Tov, so why is every day considered a bad day? And says the Gemara, Kiddush Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel says, Shinu Veses Tchil Choyle. When someone changes his habits, that brings about sicknesses. And it's true because, as soon as the season changes, let's say from winter to spring, people get sick. And as soon as a person who's used to eating not so good food during the weekdays and Shabbos, he's eating, very high quality food, that causes him to be sick. So even a ani who could afford better quality food on Shabbos will get sick because of it. So that's not a good day. Even every day is a bad day for a poor person. Ksiv ben Sefer ben Sira. Ben Sefer Ben Sira, which was like one of the type of moral books that's sometimes often quoted in the Talmud because of its wisdom. Kol Yemei Aniram, every day for a poor person is bad. Ben Sira says it's not just the daytime, af leilas, even at night times bad things happen to a poor person. Because B'Shefel Gagam Gaga, he lives on the valley and the bottom of the mountain. So his roof is at the lowest point. So mimtar gagem legage. So the rain from the rain that hits the roofs of his neighbors who are on a higher elevation come down and pours onto his roof. So his roof is always flooding. Brum harm kamai, but because he has to buy, his vineyard is on the top of a mountain, so he puts nice soil in his vineyard, but it always, because he has his vineyard on that high elevation, the dirt from his vineyard goes to other vineyards that are on the bottom of the mountain. So even so, basically, I guess what this Gemara is saying, it's not good to be poor. That's right. You got to do what you can to get out of that class. Zuk the Mishnah. We learned this Mishnah, and we were discussing yesterday when a shidduch breaks off. So we already saw that for the most part, the ring of the kedushin doesn't go back. The ring of the kedushin gets kept by the woman, but the gifts, it depends. So the Mishnah is discussing what about the gifts, a shidduch that breaks off. Hashaleach sivloinus lebeis chamav. Someone sends gifts to his fiancee who's in his father-in-law, future father-in-law's house, and the shidduch breaks off. So it depends. Let's say he sent barrels of a nice, barrel of wine. That's going to be used up by the time they got married. So if the shidduch breaks off, does the woman have to return the barrel of wine to the ex-husband, ex potential husband? So shalach sham me'amona, the Mishnah says it depends. If he sent 100 mana, v'achal sham sudas chasen, afilu b'dinar ein nigbam. If the chasen came to the future shver's house during the engagement and had a little meal, even if he only ate a dinner's worth of food, so now he basically said, I'm moichel all the presents that I sent to my future fiancé. So if the shidduch breaks off, he doesn't get it back. And that's only if he sent food. Obviously, if he sent a piece of jewelry, so then something like that, then if the shidduch breaks off, even if he ate, a meal at his engaged wife's, his engaged girl's house, he would still be able to get it back. But here we're talking about he sent food. If he never ate the food that he sent to the father-in-law, then he could collect it back if the shidduch breaks off. Shalach Reuben. Let's say he sent, doesn't matter, he sent a lot of gifts, but he said, remember, hold on to the gifts that I'm sending you. We're going to bring it to our new house. Let's say he sent wine. And he sent to the lady a very most expensive wine, and he said, "Hold on to it because when we move into our apartment, you'll bring over that wine." And the shidduch breaks off. Then the husband can get it back. But if he said, let's say, cheap wine, and he said you could use it in your father's house, he already said that she could keep it. Obviously, if the shidduch goes bad, then he doesn't get it back. Amar Rava said, Dafke dinar, only if he ate in his father-in-law's house a dinar's worth of food, then he gets it back. But if he ate less than a dinar's worth of food, then it has to be returned. Then he wasn't moichel it because he sent over barrels of wine, he never ate a meal in their house, and the shidduch breaks off, they have to return that barrel of wine. So the Gemara says, Pshita, dinner tanah. The Mishnah says that he had to have eaten a dinner worth of meals in order for him to, we say that he probably was moichel on the wine. So the Gemara says, Mahu the same. I would have thought, even if he ate less than a dinner, even if he ate less, he's moichel it. He lets his fiance keep it, ex-fiance. So Tani dinner. Why does the Mishnah say he has to eat a dinner? It's worth of food. The Mishnah is saying that generally people eat a dinner's worth of food in a meal. Dinner for the word dinner, but dinner is a coin. Kamash Malon, no, he has to have eaten a dinner's worth of meal, right? So he can't just eat a candy in their house. If he ate a candy in their house, that's not called a meal. You have to have sat down for a decent meal, like a 2-course meal. So then he's moichel everything to his fiance, and if the shidduch breaks off, she doesn't have to return it to him. What happens? The Mishnah says that if he ate in the shver's house, then he's moichel on that gift. What happens shosamai? If he just drank, what's the din? Hu'tanam. Shluchai hu'tanan. It says that he ate in the house. Let's say shluchai mai. Let's say he sent a messenger to give over the gift, and that shliach ate in their house. Shamtanam. If it says that he ate in their house a meal. What about shigerloi? What happens if the shver sent him some food back to his own home? The Ashma come in here. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, the same story. There is a story about this one person, right? He's engaged to a girl. He sent to his fiancée, Meya Kroinishel, 100 wagon loads of wine, of wine bottles, the shal kadeshemen, of oil bottles, shal klei kesef, shal klei zov, and shal klei milas, a lot of clothing, a lot of silver goblets and gold goblets. V'rachav b'simchasai, and he rode probably to visit his shver, proud of the gift that he sent. V'holach v'omed al Pesach beis Chamav, and he sat by, on the porch of his shver's house. V'yitziu koisha chamen, they brought him a hot drink. V'shas, and he drank. Right, there was wine, and probably it wasn't diluted. Umei said he died. So now, does his family get back all the gifts that he sent to his ex-fiancée? They brought it to Usha, v'amru, and they said, that if those food items that he sent, those are not collected, items that don't get used up, let's say the silver goblets, the gold goblets, so they weren't going to get rotten anyway. Nigman, they get sent back to the ex-husband's family. Shmami, no, you see from that story, Afil Shasa, even if he drank, because this is the story, the guy drank with them, and they don't have to send back the food and all the wine back. So therefore, we see that even if the chassan drank with the family, so then he probably was moichel on the food that he sent as gifts. Shmami no, afilu pachas min dinner, would you say even if he ate less than a dinner, is worth, because all he did was drink something, a hot drink. That's less than a dinner. Who said they didn't put into that drink a grounded pearl, for they would grind pearls, the powder of the pearls, and put it into a drink for health benefits. So it was worth 1,000 zuz. How do you know that drink was not worth 1,000 zuz? Shamet minei, do you hear from that story? They sent him because he didn't drink in their house. He drank it on their porch of their house. So we see from there that he doesn't have to. The husband, the groom, potential groom, does not have to drink it in their house. Answers the Gemara. The truth is not true. Dilma kol Pesach beis Chamav kebeis Chamavdam. Since he ate it at the door opening of his shver's house, it's as if he ate it in his shver's house. So therefore, that's why it's considered as if he ate in the house and he was moichel. The question is, Mayim shi shalim. In other words, let's say you only ate a half a dinner. Okay, so maybe since he only ate a half a dinner, maybe they have to only send back half the gifts. Shevach sivloinus mahu. Let's say he sent gifts. Let's say he sent an animal, okay, and the animal gave birth. So what's the din? Does the fiance have to send back if the shidduch didn't work out? The animal, she certainly has to send back, but what about the baby of the animal? So Kivam, the isnei day hadre b'shusei shavach, since she has to return back the animal, so the baby of the animal really belonged to the husband. Dilma, but maybe since this is like a loan, right? So basically, if this animal was lost or stolen, the lady, the fiance, would have had to substitute and buy another animal to pay him back. So really, it was her animal that gave birth. So it was her in domain that the animal increased in value, that this whole investment was increased. Teku, the Gemara remains by our questions. What happens by Rava? The Rava asked the question. Let's say the husband sent sivloinus, gifts. Let's say a nice bottle of wine, ha'asui libalas, that's supposed to be used up, v'loi balu, and it wasn't used up. Let's say, and it's still here. We have a half a bottle of wine. Mao, does the girl have to return it back? Tashma, come in here. Zu alocha heller abacha sarabil lefnei chahum v'usha v'amru, and they said sivloinus ha'asuyis libalas ein nigbam. That if it's used, if it's a presence that generally gets used up, she doesn't have to give it back. So my love, even if it wasn't used up, but it could have been used up, you don't have to return back. You don't have to return it. Answers the Gemara, that's not a proof. The balu, only if it's used up, you don't have a monetary obligation to pay it back. But if it wasn't used up, if only a half a bottle of the wine was used up, maybe the girl has to give it back. Tashma. So our Mishnah says a clear grew that if it's a small gift, and he said, "I want it back," that he said you can use it in your father's house, Ein nigbam, she never has to give it back. And the Mishnah gives a blanket statement, which implies that even if she didn't use it up, let's say she only drank a half a bottle of wine, ein nigbam, she doesn't have to give it back. So we see from there that even if it wasn't used up, she doesn't have to return it. And says the Gemara, maybe our Mishnah is talking about small, tiny items like a fancy napkins or something like that, which even if they weren't used up, he doesn't. It's such a small item, he was meichel it. But let's say he gave her a $500 bottle of wine, and she only used a half of the bottle of wine. So maybe she would have to return it if it was not yet used. Amar Yehuda Amarav. There's a story about a person. He says this crazy story. He sent his shver new wine, new oil, and nice linen clothing, nice flax clothing in Shavuos time. And this is very odd because normally it takes time to harvest in other parts of the world to get wine and brand new oil. And he already, Shavuos time, already had it in Israel. It was selling on the market already. So that was the story. My Kamashmalan, what is Rav telling you a story? He's telling you that Eretz Yisrael has this power that wine can be so fast, be produced in a bottle already from Shavuos time. You have brand new wine and brand new oil. Rav was saying that if the husband said, "Oh, I already said brand new oil and brand new wine," you believe him because it's possible. In Israel, anything is possible. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, we'll stop in a minute. There was a man that said to his wife, and this is an interesting story. He said to his wife, he thought that his wife lost, like in COVID, you lost the ability to smell. And therefore, he was thinking about giving her a divorce. And he wanted to see, he went into a remote place, and he wanted to check to see if her sense of smell was working, and he brought along in his pocket a radish. Amallah, he said to her, don't you smell a radish? I smell it. It's coming from the north. We go to Amid Bays. Amra, lay, she said, she understood that her husband's testing her to see if her sense of smell was working. She says, I wish I had a little date to go along with the radish, and I would eat it because that would counteract the sharpness of the radish. Okay, but his whole intention, very interesting, was to test to see if he wants to remain married with this lady. Because if she had if her sense of smell was not working anymore, he wanted to give her a divorce. And look what happened. Nafal churva umesa, and the wall fell down in the house, and she died. Amru Chachamim said, Hoil v'loy nichnas achrea ela baitka. We'll stop over here. Since he only went into to check to see if he wants to marry her, right? Mesa eina yarsha. Since his intention was that I'm thinking about giving her a divorce, therefore she died, because suddenly she died and she was a rich lady. He wants to inherit her, but his intention was maybe I'm going to give her a divorce. So therefore, Chazal said eina yarsha, he can no longer inherit her, because he was thinking about giving her a divorce. Very interesting. Okay, we're going to continue on tomorrow, Bez Hashem. We'll have a little catch up to do.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.